Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's awesome that you're tuning in. In this video we are going to be doing a little bit of a chit chat about something pretty cool. So this is a tiny laptop that actually had the potential to play all kinds of games, emulation, and we can do some browsing or just a simple office work. This is a product that I found really intriguing because of the I wouldn't say the specs itself only, but it is not like an AMD Ryzen powerhouse. It comes with a low power chip like the N150. That is an interesting chip because I must say the performance wise this is quite interesting. At least I tested out the N100 a couple of times, but when you're having the Piccolo Series 81X, this is let's say a tiny device that has like a lot of potential. In here we're getting a very nice, let's say protecting case with a power supply. And a very nice looking sleeve to protect the tiny laptop itself, and another sleeve to make it super safe. And in here we're having the product, but the first impression is that this thing has a very nice feel to it, and the overall design, I really dig this thing. The way how this actually works is you can actually have like multiple purposes for this. So if you want to use it for just a simple gaming, if you want to use this for emulation, we can all do it, and that's what we're going to be focusing on today. But if you're needing some hardware that is super compact and you just want to do some simple office work, you can just do this fine on an N150. Beautiful flat design, and the key presses to have like a beautiful nice quality feel. The hinges are in superb quality, but also have the option to flip the screen, and this way we can just use this thing for example watching movies. Yep, you can just put it in, let's say, this particular way, and we can just watch movies and do some other cool things if you just want to do that, or just, let's say, connect some controllers and just use it like a display with a stand. So yeah, that's actually what's going on over here. You can just flip it all the way, and the way how they constructed this is absolutely genius. We have seen it with different brands, but of course those were like bigger. But what you can actually do is just flip it and just use it like a tablet, already mentioned before, and can just do playing some games this way. But let's do a little bit of a chit chat about all of the other like features and also do some testing on this device. So first of all, let's talk about connection. So over here we're having an output for HDMI out with a mini, and that's kind of great. So we can hook this thing up to a bigger screen, an input for a USB 3.0. We have over here a USB-P port. We're having the fan intake outtake situation over here. When it comes to, let's say, there you can see over here we're having two speakers at the side. We're having an input for microSD card, another USB port, and we're having over here a headphone jack. At the bottom we're finding these very nice tiny rubber pads over there, and I must say if you're going to be putting it on your desk, it gives like this very nice stable, let's say, way you can just put it there. You do need to hold it in place because when you're going to be looking into the hinge of this thing, it does have like a very nice resistance, and this way we can just put it in all kinds of positions on what you actually want to do. However, you can just boot it up over here, and this way we can just start up the machine. There's an LED indication over there. It's very difficult maybe to see on the recording, but it indicates if this thing is powering on or if you're going to be charging it. Yeah, so we're going to be charging it, by the way. The adapter is just a 12 volt, but it's kind of interesting. Do have like a normal USB-C, and I'm going to be plugging this thing in here. That's the indication battery at the side, indication that it's going to be starting loading. But when it comes to playing and using it for just basic office work, we have two USB ports already mentioned before, so this way we can just easily plug in a mouse, and if you want to you can use a keyboard, for example. But the first thing we're going to be doing is setting this thing up, because that's the first thing that we're going to be needing to do. So moving on, we can actually use the touchscreen, even what you can just see over here, but we also can use the mouse. So yep, let's set it up for our country and everything else. Let's set up the keyboard, otherwise that's not going to be working like it's supposed to be. We're using a QWERTY keyboard, it's a smaller one, but what I love about it, we have like big keys, so it's going to be so much more convenient. And oh man, I freaking hate like Windows, but you need to go online. There are some tricks, by the way, out there to just skip this, but if it still works. So what is interesting, if you don't want to use a mouse or you don't have a mouse by hand, you can actually use this tiny trackpad, and I can tell you this is a very interesting configuration over here. So what you're actually going to be doing is putting your finger here over here. You don't need to actually touch, or at least like have this old trackpad like situation you had with old Dells. No, we can just fairly easy use a mouse cursor if you can see it. And the construction itself, I must say that you need to get used to it, but it works quite okay. Yeah, we can actually use this thing like a laptop. However, the only thing I did already noticed, so when you're going to be using this thing as a laptop, yeah, there were a couple of things that I found not like super pleasant. So I already mentioned that if you're going to be typing on this thing, it is a beautiful high quality keyboard. I don't like that. But if you're going to be using a traditional laptop, or at least like a keyboard like I do, so I do need to get used to the keyboard itself. Where this is actually a QWERTY keyboard, yeah, overall I must say that it's very compact, very dense, and particularly when it comes to certain, let's say, part of the keyboard, I really needed to get used to that even more. We're having here the brand Piccolo. The model number is Series 81X. So the operating system at this moment it is Windows 11, but we can also use it with Linux. We're having the Intel N150. The screen size is going to be 8 inches of FUM. The screen scale is 60 by 10. The screen resolution is 920 by 1200. So the network is going to be the Wi-Fi 6, and that actually having even the option for a gravity sensor. We have an expansion slot like a micro SD card, and it goes all the way up to maximum 128 gigabyte. But it's kind of weird, to be honest. 3.5 headphone jack, and many other features like a front camera 2 megapixels, and the battery capacity is overall like okay, but how long it will last is depending on what you're going to be doing, because I noticed like even with some standby time, I did notice that I had a little bit of a thing going on that it drains the battery even in standby mode. The device itself has a very nice quality feel to it, and when it comes to the weight, this thing weighs 642 grams, and when it comes to the weight, it's similar to, let's say, more beefy handhelds that we've seen before. So weight itself, it's not bad itself. Ooh, I was cheating, 643. But when it comes to the Piccolo itself, where it has like a very tiny display compared maybe with a regular laptop, I must say that this thing is beautiful looking and very nice when it comes to, let's say, the overall resolution and the pixel density. But let's do a little bit of chit chat about the specification with CPU Z. So this thing doesn't come with a powerful AMD Ryzen, no, it comes with the Intel Core already mentioned before. So it has a max TDP of only 6 watts, so that's not a lot. And of course, it is very convenient if you don't want to drain your battery like crazy. So over here with the manufacturer is X Plus, memory DDR5 12 gigabytes. So this thing has a whopping freaking 12 gigabyte of like memory spread over multiple, let's say, slots, which you can see over here. So graphic wise, so this thing comes with the onboard graphical power of the Intel, no, let's say Nvidia or AMD or whatsoever. But let's stress the CPU, and this thing can become very hot when you're going to be charging it too. However, let's take a closer look. So in here we can find the package temperatures. Let's keep this thing over here so you can actually see what's going on. And the package temperatures, you can see it can even hit the 74, 76. You know, it can become very hot, but yeah, that has something to do, of course, that we're having a device that is very compact, and that's one of the concessions we actually need to make. And so far it's going to be hitting 86 Celsius, and I think that's actually the max that we're going to be hitting. Yeah, but beside that, this is actually what we can expect with such a compact device. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to be doing is have a lot of fun with this, simply because we can use the touchscreen device, and I think that's one of the coolest features of this. So let's switch it over and let's play some games. So you can also just do some random browsing. So the sensitivity of the display is absolutely amazing. I must say then when it comes to that, I already missed out the first freaking fruit, but it's more like a personal thing. Come on. But you can actually see if you're going to be sliding. Touchscreen rise. Yeah, this seems to be working just fine, but I do need to press very hard because of the, let's say, resistance of the freaking screen itself. There we go. There. Yeah. Yeah. That's also a great just to test how the audio quality is, and I'm surprised with this little thing how good the overall audio quality is, particularly if you're going to be hearing the soundtrack of this game. So it was a lot of fun, you know, just messing with these touchscreen games. Let's see how accurate and how good this actually works out, because we're just playing on a way tinier screen than normal. But so far I don't have any problems when it comes to this. I find that the display itself is very accurate, and I love it with these, let's say, even low-end chips of Intel, that we can actually play all of these games. No, we can't upgrade. Ooh. So let's see how it is actually works out with some old school games. Let's see how accurate it is. If I can still have some struggles with the accuracy. And that was more my mistake, of course. But so far this thing is quite accurate. And if you just want to play some old school touchscreen games, it's going to be a lot of fun. I think that's one of the fun features. And of course you can just browse the internet, but this seems to be working all fine. Even smaller resolution because this is a pretty old game. Let's see. Oh, okay. So moving on to some old school games, or indie games at least. You can play these just fine on, let's say, a tablet like this. The N150 Intel is quite a powerful chip for, let's say, a really low TDP when it comes to that. And I think it's absolutely a lot of fun. And also, in this case, on Blast to the Past with Sonic Mania, what you can actually all do with this. And I'm just going to be honest, I am a big fan of, let's say, these basic games. So for me, this is going to be like the ultimate tiny tablet to bring with me to play these games. So where I'm actually going to be using this Xbox 360 controller just out of convenience. We can also hook up stuff through the Bluetooth that is connected, of course, onto the main board. So at this moment I'm having like a USB hub connected to the port, so I can use the controller and the mouse at this point. But yeah, this is actually what are some of the things that you need to do with this particular device. And of course you don't need a hub if you're going to be connecting with Bluetooth. But out of the box, yeah, you can just see like Sonic Mania and many of these other games, they play absolutely great. But let's say we're going to be using this particular device for more power GPU hungry games. And this is one of those great examples with a simple two-dimensional game that utilizes normally like in GPU big time. And this is going to be a great example that we do have struggles actually playing this, where it dips down sometimes all the way to 30 frames a second. Yeah, this is just one of those, let's say, unplayable situations where now it is okay. And if you're going to be looking into the frames now, you can actually see how low it goes. But yeah, let's move on to some other games. I think for AAA games, this is not going to be like an overall pleasant experience with the N150 chip from Intel. So let's go to semi-retro with some Tony Hawk. So out of the box, it was not even set to full HD, with the simple reason because of the onboard GPU. But I just want to force it into full HD because it looks the best. And at this stage, I just want to see how the overall experience will be. So I must say that I'm quite surprised of the frames per second that we're actually going to be running on now. You can just see that we do hit even 50 frames per second. Every setting has been set to low at this point. But I find it fascinating to see how far it has become when it comes to these low-end chips, what we can actually play. And you need to realize that this is one of those games that normally utilizes a GPU from Intel and AMD to have like the best overall performance. But if you don't see the frames per second, I think this is still very playable. And if you're going to be connecting two controllers, you can even do some split screen on this tiny display. So yeah, gaming wise, this can be a lot of fun. But if you're going to be checking out some other games like Crash Bandicoot, I've been messing with the settings in here. And yeah, you can just see that it runs only on 50 frames per second. That's absolutely horrible. So let's go to the system options. Let's go to the graphic stuff. And here 1280 by 720. It's still locked to 52. That's one of the things this screen does. Nevertheless, if you're going to be looking into the game, yeah, this is just going to be completely unplayable. And I think this is just one of the problems we're going to be facing if you're having such a low power. Which you see everything has been set to off or low, whatever. And I think this is a little bit of a downside. So it's absolutely amazing to see that we can actually run it. But with this N150 chip, I think that is one of the downsides. It's just not powerful enough to run all of the games on full speed.